Hello. Thank you for another opportunity to ask me, to let me ask a question. So actually, my question is related to job as well. So I'm currently in Italy living with my family. And after reflecting, I've made the decision to go back to Canada in the next few months to look for a job because I talked to my friends and they told me it will be better for me to be there and easier because here it's hard. So my friends are like willing to support me. Also, they said I can stay with them until I find a job. But I get just uh, confused because so far I haven't been successful like in looking in like getting the job. I've been applying again and again, but it doesn't work out. I've been just getting rejections. So I have these thoughts, and sometimes get a little anxious by thinking if I move to Canada, what if I just, ending up there and things don't work out the way I want? And since the future is very uncertain, how can I deal with this confusion and also have the faith that everything will work out, even if I have to like wait for a few months, that's okay. But I just, get keep thinking and keep thinking again, what if I will find the right people? What if I don't find the right people? So how can I best deal with this like a confusion in the mind? Thank you so much.
자기는 솔직히 말해서 어디서 살고 싶어요?
So if you had your choice, where would you want to live?
So I would like to go back to Canada because of a few reasons. First, because I did my graduation from there, and my parents have invested a lot of money in my education. So I think it would be best for me to be there, for my future career.
근데 여러 가지 그 회사에 원서를 냈는데 그 채용이 안 됐다는 거는 그 회사가 요구할 그 회사가 볼 때는 자신의 경력이나 능력이 맞지 않다고 생각해서 그럴 거 아니에요.
So the fact that your application for a job was rejected by several different companies, even though you tried, that says that those companies did not find your experience and skill set a right fit for the role they were looking for, right?
Well, actually, I have the experience as well because I applied only for jobs where I have the experience. But I think there's just too much competition because I have friends who have less experience than me, but they're still like having good jobs. But I have already good experience as well as qualifications, but still it's challenging for me.
그러니까 경력이 10년이라도 5년 정도의 위상을 가지고 거기에 따르는 연봉을 좀 낮춰가지고 만약에 자기가 그 서류를 제출한다면 그 입사될 가능성이 훨씬 높아지잖아요.
However, wouldn't you increase your odds of getting a job if you submitted applications that were kind of lower than what you actually qualified for? So maybe you seek out those position opportunities for which you are actually overqualified. Wouldn't that give you a better chance to get those jobs?
그러니까 내가 이 회사 채용이 안 되는 거는 하나님이 나를 미워해서도 신이 미워해서도 아니고 전생에 죄를 지었어도 아니고 사주가 나빴어도 아니에요.
The reason you're not getting hired is not because God hates you or you did something bad in your previous lifetime or your stars didn't align.
그냥 내가 조금 사람들이 요구하는 것보다 내가 조금 높게 냈다는 거예요.
It might mean that you apply for jobs in which in which might be asking for a higher level qualification that you currently have.
그런데 그렇게 될 확률이 낮으니까 그건 시간이 좀 오래 걸리면 가능성이 높아지죠.
So in those opportunities in which they're asking for highly qualified, applicants as well as a lot of competition, as you said, it'll take longer for you to find a job.
그런데 시간을 조금 줄여서 빨리 입사를 하려면 이걸 조금만 낮추면 됩니다.
But if you want to reduce the time it takes for you to get a job, then you might want to lower the position to which you apply.
그러니까 집을 팔 때 빨리 팔려면 좀 값을 낮춰야 되고요.
Same thing as selling a house. When you want to sell a house really quickly, you put a lower price point.
좀 내가 원하는 값을 받으려면 좀 오래 기다려야 됩니다.
But if you want the full asking price for your house, then you gotta be willing to wait more.
내가 집을 구할 때도 마찬가지입니다.
Same thing when you're trying to buy a house.
내가 빨리 구하려면 돈을 좀 더 지불해야 됩니다.
If you want to buy a house really quickly, you gotta pay above the asking price.
조금 싸게 구하려면 좀 시간을 끌고 많은 것을 봐야 됩니다.
And if you want to buy a house that's cheaper, then you gotta spend more time looking at different houses.
근데 이것은 뭐 운명지어진 게 아닙니다.
So there's nothing faithful about this.
그러니까 빨리 직업을 구하려면 조금 낮추세요.
So if you want a job, quickly, then can't you lower the target jobs that you're applying for?
그리고 조금 내가 원하는 정도의 연봉을 원하면, 연봉이 조금 높이 원하면 많은 군데, 수백 군데를 내고 시간을 좀 기다려야 됩니다.
But if you want the job with a price point, with a salary point that you want, then why don't you just apply to a lot of jobs all at once and be willing to wait longer?
그건 나의 선택이에요.
And ultimately boils down to your choice.
Well, yes, I think you're absolutely right. And that's one thing I've adopted now to kind of open more boundary, not to be too picky. But I wanted to also clear, like when mind, keeps thinking, like make up stories about the future, and, your thoughts keep going on, how to best deal with that, how to like calm those confusion down and just let it go, not worry too much about the future.
내가 너무 바라는 것이 많으면 그것이 안 될 확률이 높아집니다.
So if you have a lot of desires, the probability of those desires, not all of desires not coming true is high.
즉 미래가 불확실해집니다.
In other words, your future becomes uncertain.
근데 내가 바라는 요구를 낮추면 성취될 확률이 높아집니다.
But if you lower your desire points, what you want, your objectives, and focus them, then your probability of getting it increases.
그리고 미래가 아주 분명해집니다.
And the future becomes much more certain.
예를 들어 보겠습니다.
For example,
내가 캐나다에 가서 의회 의원이 되겠다, 수상이 되겠다 하면 가능성이 매우 낮습니다.
say you want to go to Canada, I want to immigrate to Canada and become the prime minister, or I want to be a minister or a politician, assemblyman. Then the probability is very low.
그는 실패할 가능성이 없습니다.
And your probability for failure is very, very high.
하나 신이 나를 미워해서 아닙니다.
And it's not because God hates you.
근데 내가 그래도 캐나다에 가면 굶어 죽지는 않을 거야. 이렇게 생각하면 이건 확실합니다.
But if you say, you know what, I'll emigrate to Canada and at least I won't starve to death. And that becomes certain.
뭐 병나면 기본적인 치료는 할 거야. 이것도 확실합니다.
And if you say, I'm going to immigrate to Canada and if I get sick, I'll at least get basic care. Well, that's certain too.
아무리 작은 방이라도 뭐 밖에 길에 안 자고 방에는 잘 거야. 이거 확실합니다.
And if you say, I'm going to immigrate to Canada, you know what, I'll at least have a roof over my head. I might be living in a small room, but I'll at least not sleep on the street. And that's certain too.
그러니까 자기의 인생이 불확실한 게 아니에요. 이렇게 생각하면 아주 확실해집니다.
So it's not that your future is uncertain. Because if you actually reshape the expectations of your objectives, then your future becomes very certain.
자기가 미래에 대해서 불확실하고 그래서 불안하다는 것은 이미 기대 수준이 너무 높다, 욕심이 많다 그런 얘기예요.
So the fact that you feel that your future is uncertain and you're anxious about it is indicative that your objectives are too high and you are greedy in what you want to achieve.
그리고 가족의 요구, 주변의 요구를 내가 다 들어줘야 된다. 그러니까 주변 사람이 나에게 기대를 갖고 있는 거기에 만족시켜줘야 된다 이런 부담을 안고 있는 겁니다.
And you have this thought that you have to be able to satisfy the expectations and desires that others have on you.
이러면 내가 내 삶을 못 살고 남의 눈치를 보고 살아야 됩니다.
And if you do that, then you don't get to live your own life. You get to live a life that's shaped by others' expectations of you.
그러니까 부모님을 사랑하지만은 그들의 요구에 너무 부응하려고 하면 결국은 나는 자유인이 아니고 그들의 노예가 되는 겁니다.
So you love your parents, but if you try to too much satisfy their desires or expectations of you, then you allow yourself to be their slave, not a free person.
그러니까 그런 무거운 짐을 비록 학교 다닐 때 많이 지원 부모로부터 도움을 받았다 하더라도 그 부모에 대한 너무 무거운 짐을 지게 되면 자기의 인생이 굉장히 힘들어집니다.
So I realized that they supported you through school, but if you make that into a too heavy a burden, then you make your life difficult.
캐나다에 사는 인도계 가족들을 제가 잠깐 한번 이렇게 얘기를 해봤는데요. 가족들 온 가족이 그 남자의 장남 하나한테 다 힘을 쏟아줘가지고 이 사람이 의사가 되든지 변호사가 되든지 유학을 보내든지 이렇게 해가 그 한 사람이 잘 되면 이제 다른 가족들도 다 그 덕을 보고 사는 이런 시스템을 갖고 있어서 그게 어떻게 보면 그 남자에게 혜택이기도 하고 엄청난 부담이기도 할 것 같더라고요.
So I have spoken with a Indian Canadian family once in the past, and the family kind of support structure they were following was that they would actually pool all their resources to support the eldest son and ensure that the eldest son becomes successful, either a doctor, a medical doctor, lawyer, a successful businessman. And once that success is achieved, then the rest of the family would actually benefit in a cascading way from his success. In a way, that's both good for that eldest son and bad.
그래서 특히 아시아권은 뭐 한국도 그렇고요, 이 베트남에도 그렇고 중국도 그렇고 아시아권들은 주로 이 가족이 많은 지원도 해주지만 가족에 대한 부담이 아주 큰 것 같습니다. 젊은이들이.
So in a similar ways, young people from East Asia and Vietnam, South Korea for sure, and other locations in Asia, families tend to support their children more. Having said that, the children also carry this burden of having to support back their family.
그래서 남의 도움을 받는 것은 설령 가족이라 하더라도 실제로는 별로 좋은 게 아니에요.
So in that sense, even though the support comes from family, receiving help and support from others is not all good.
예, 왜냐하면 갚아야 되기 때문에.
Because it's a debt that you have to repay.
그러니까 조금 그런 문화는 이해되지만은 조금 자유로워지는 게 필요하다 싶습니다.
So I fully understand the underlying culture and the expectations around that culture, but it's also important for you to be more free.
Yes, actually, one positive thing why I made this decision because my friend who is there, who studied with me, he is like willing to support me. He has also supported me in the past. So he was very kind to kind of tell me that I can stay with him until I find a job. So I have like good points, but it's just, I think I need to be more patient and just keep, applying for more jobs and just hope for something will work out sooner or later. but I will definitely keep your advice, not to have expectations too high, because otherwise I'll keep suffering and just keep making my mind more confused. So the basic necessities that you mentioned, having a roof overhead, food, so those are definitely like key points, and I'll keep those in mind for sure, because sometimes we take those for guaranteed, we don't give them importance. So thank you.
제가 생각할 때는요, 첫 번째, 좀 낮춰서 일단 쉽게 들어갈 수 있는 직장을 먼저 구한다.
Yeah, as from where I said, I think the first strategy could be to lower your expectation or the target positions and try to find a place where, you could more easily get the job.
남의 눈치 너무 생각하지 말고요.
And do not think too much of what others think of you or expect of you.
그래서 일단은 내 삶이 자립이 되도록 해놓고요.
And, first and foremost, become independent and autonomous in your own life.
그 다음에 두 번째, 주위에 조금 나은 회사에 계속 이렇게 원서를 냅니다.
And second, continue applying to other positions that are better.
그러면 그게 좀 늦게 돼도 내가 현재 생활을 하고 있으니까 큰 걱정은 불안은 없다는 거.
It might take a while to get a better position, but that's okay because you already have a job.
네, 그렇게 해서 그 중에 하나가 되면 옮겨가면 됩니다.
And then if one of them works out, then you move to that better position.
그리고 또 생활이 안정이 되면
And once you have stabilized,
수익이 많은 것보다는 내가 스트레스를 덜 받고 내가 좋아하는 일을 다시 찾아보는 게 좋습니다.
and once you have stabilized your life, it's better not to chase more salary or higher salary, but chase after the work that you like doing.
그래서 직장 생활이 곧 여가도 되고 뭐 놀이도 되도록 이렇게 하는 게 가장 삶이 편안하다고 볼 수 있습니다.
So that work itself become enjoyable. It's something that you enjoy doing. That way you bring about, better balance and well-being to your life.
그렇기 때문에 수익의 그 연봉을 좀 낮추더라도 그런 것으로 다시 세 번째 옮겨갈 수 있습니다.
And so your salary might not be as high as you want, but you can actually transition to a job that allows you that balance.
다시 말씀드리면 첫 번째는 무조건 빨리 구한다.
Okay, just to summarize, the first strategy could be find a job that you can go get quickly.
두 번째, 내 재능을 활용해서 어느 정도 대가가 되는 그런 직장을 구한다.
Second, take advantage of your skill set and find a job that caters to your skill set, experience, and pays you commensurate to your skills.
그다음에 세 번째는 연봉이 조금 적더라도 내가 즐길 수 있는, 내가 원하는, 막 취미라도 즐기고 싶은 그런, 그러니까 내 돈을 써가면서도 하고 싶은 그런 일들을 구하면 일과 놀이가 일치하게 됩니다.
And the third position you might want to move to is one that actually makes the work enjoyable. It's something that you would actually even pay to do. If you do that, it brings about balance and well-being to your life.
그게 선택하기 어려운 거는 생활 수준을 약간 낮추는 자세가 필요합니다.
But that might be a difficult move because it might require for you to lower your quality of life.
네, 그런 관점에서 일단 직장을 쉽게 먼저 구해보세요.
So from that perspective, let's try to get a job as quickly as you can.
그러려면 낮춰야 된다는 거.
But in order to do that, you got to lower your target.
So, yeah, I really appreciate your advice. And so I will definitely keep in mind that to have my expectations lower and not to be too greedy in my expectations, and also reflect that the work, first try to ensure whatever job I can get. So not to have my expectations too high. And then at the same time, focus on finding the work that is meaningful rather than focus on salary, because that's what's important in the long run. because if you can be making a lot of money but still not be happy. But if you are happy and find a meaning in your work, even if you're not making that much money, I think that's I agree with your like advice on that. I think that's more beneficial in the long run. So then slowly in the future, with patience, to transition to other job. So yeah, I'm actually optimistic. I think things will work out. And actually, I just wanted to ask quickly, I saw the video on pilgrimage that you went to India, and I would love to like join in the future. So I just wanted to know, how can I participate if I want to like join in the future?
네, 여러분들이 일단은 불교 공부를 좀 한 뒤에 가야 됩니다. 왜냐하면 그냥 가면 너무 힘들어서 안 돼요. 그러니까 이 수행이다 이런 마음으로 가야 그것이 어떤 고생을 해도 기쁨이 되고 즐거움이 됩니다.
So a prerequisite to joining us for the pilgrimage is that you have to study Buddhism a little more, because if you go there thinking that this is a travel, a trip, then you'll suffer because the circumstances of our travel is not that comfortable. But if you go there with that thinking that this is actual practice, live practice in mind, then that's when you can really gain a lot out of this journey.
여러분들이 이렇게 공부를 하시면 언젠가 이제 영어로 안내하는 프로그램이 마련될 겁니다.
So as we continue on the studies, this engagement, these talks, eventually we'll have a program, a pilgrimage in which we can actually run by speaking English.